Hello, all you wonderful beings and energy-emitting batteries for the mega death machine that orbits our sun. I am something that I forgot, Ben Rosenthal, and I'm joined here with some very special guests. I would say Anto, but he's not that special, but he's... Calm down. But the special guests are our friends from over at the Toy Power podcast. Trent and Ben are back here for another week. Trent and Ben, welcome. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you.
So what have you been up to in the past week?
Well, I'm always scrolling eBay for new toys.
What toys are you hoping to find to add to your ever-growing army of the plastic dead?
I know. I probably shouldn't be looking as I do. All sorts of things.
It's hard to pin them down.
It is, but no, I did just land a June LJN lot of 6 figures.
If you say June 3 times really fast, it's rumoured that Floppy appears.
Oh, is that right?
Now, I know he's out there rescuing orphans from the burning buildings still, but if we all say it and we all really believe it, maybe Floppy will appear. All right.
Okay, on 3.
There you go.
1, 2, 3.
June.
Hey, did
you say June? I love June.
Oh, who's this homeless man in my house? Get out of here, you freak! God.
And I hate to admit it, I have been Google or eBay searching Captain Planet. It's a guilty
He's our
pleasure.
hero.
He is.
Who
Gotta
made
bring
pollution
There's
down
Tiger
to
Toys.
zero.
Tiger Toys.
Tiger Toys, mate.
Yeah.
Are we sure?
Gadget.
I'm positive,
Inspector
yeah.
Gadget.
Because I was doing some research and I thought they were made by a little toy company called LJN. But that's obviously incorrect. But we're talking about LJN this episode. LJN are very famous for making bad things and big beefcake wrestlers. Do you know what I like most about the big beefcake wrestlers? Because the fact that they were all vinyl. When you slapped them together, they sound like
noise.
Big, chunky meat sacks. Just boom, boom, just like the real wrestlers. Ben, what have you been doing the previous week?
Bit of the same, searching eBay as well for toys, but I'm trying not to buy anything. I'm just sort of window shopping at the moment because we have the Mega Toy Fair coming up in early June. So
a Mega Toy Fair or is that the Mega Toy? Yeah, it is the Mega.
It is the Mega one. It's the
Wave
2-day, 2-day event. So that's pretty
You know what
cool.
I like most about the Mega Toy Fair, and this won't make sense to anyone in America, but I'll try and set the scenery. So it was formerly the biggest toy fair in South Australia, which is where we reside currently.
Biggest in Southern Hemisphere, I think.
It was at one time. Yes,
okay,
I believe so.
Right. Yep.
I think it may have been taken over by another toy fair that we frequent.
Yes, fair enough.
But the one part about this toy fair, it's not finding the bargains. It's not spending day with friends and other collectors. It's the way the owner uses the same A2 piece of paper, advertising it, written in texter, and put on his 1973 photocopier.
Yep.
And instead of getting a new piece of paper each year, the owner simply gets texter or whiteout and blanks out the date and then writes over the top of it.
Yep.
It's part of a charm now.
It's so charming.
I want to see
love
how
it.
thick that whiteout build-up is.
But is it done on the original or is it done on a photocopy?
No. Can he even close the photocopy machine anymore?
The best part is that in order to apply for a table there, you have to get a paper application form, which is fine, and then send a check or money order via
really?
snail mail.
Is that right?
It's 100% true. Wow. I've seen King Kaiju himself show me the form. Anyway, this is Hack the Dino. We talk about video games, past, present, and future. We're joined by the Toy Power podcast, and we're about to assault your ears. That was very aggressive. We are joined here by the Toy Power podcast people, Ben and Trent. So we talked about the podcast itself. I think it's time we learned a little bit more about you. So who wants to go first? Maybe I'll throw it over to Ben. You mentioned part of the things you start to collect, but what's your main focus of collecting and what got you on the road to collecting?
Oh, very good question. So what got me on to collecting was the defining point when you go from collecting as a kid and just playing with toys, relentlessly and things, to the day my birthday turned around and I was 16 years old, and my mate got me an Aliens comic, and I had no idea they made mature comics. Like all through my childhood, I'd read Archie, Garfield, Snoopy, all those sort of wacky ones, the occasional Spider-Man, Simpsons, all those sort of things. I didn't know they made proper mature horror movie tie-in comics, and I was hooked. Like, it wasn't even it was Aliens Havoc, I think, or not even one of the better ones. And so instantly I went to the comic book store and found an even massive library of titles and things, and that started that game. And I put that as the defining point for me, from going from a casual, admiring toys and things growing up to, all right, I'm now a collector. So collecting comics to start with, and then then came on the toys, and there was a little store called Movie Maniacs where I went in, and they had all the 90s Kenner Alien toys and Predators all still on card, and I fell in love with them again, just like I used to buy them for $4 at Big W, and I repurchased them on card and started collecting, and sort of went from there.
Movie Maniacs, from memory, they had tubs, didn't they? Like, well, not tubs, like this. I'm sure it was homemade, sectioned off, like big wardrobe bin type thing, where they just threw all the figures in there.
Pretty
and
much,
literally dug down and grabbed things out.
Yep.
It was quite the era, because it was sort of I turned 18 in 2000, so this is 1998. And they were just sort of, making a name for themselves. Yeah. And toys were, peanuts. Like, they were just pocket change back then, especially 90s toys. You couldn't give them away. He-Man and things are starting to get that up there. You could buy a carded He-Man for, anywhere between $50 and $100. And so that
even
that
back
was,
then.
Yeah.
Wow.
Some figures were quite sought after, especially it comes down to the condition of the card and things. Like He-Man is obviously the more premium, and characters like Snoutspout and things would be at your lower end. But yeah, like, it was just a dime a dozen back then, and it was a fantastic time to an entry level to get into collecting and rebuild my childhood. Going to garage sales before eBay completely took over, and before every man and his dog had a phone in their pocket that could connect to the internet, and they could just scroll through to see how much the average toy was going for on eBay. It was, I can't stress it enough, it was just such a wild time to be alive. I never forget McFarlane toys in early 2000s came along, and they were a deal breaker in the sense that they made realistic movie figures. And up until then, I only had the Kenner, the bull alien and the gorilla alien. These weren't screen accurate figures. These were just toy eccentric characters with a action feature. And here comes McFarlane, and he's putting out screen accurate molds and things. I mean, they only had 2 points of articulation. They're almost a statue, but still, I'd never seen anything like that before. And I just instantly fell in love. And as my collection of Movie Maniacs by the same name spawned, obviously, stole the Adelaide little business's name, created the Movie Maniacs line, and they had, as my collection of them grew, my collection of Kenner figures just got packed up and put away and, put in the corner, and they got discarded because these Movie Maniacs figures were so much better and it was screen accurate. And it's all it just spiraled on from there. And buying a Castle Grayskull, He-Man, and Battlecat for $5 at a garage sale. You just
were they complete? Or?
No, far from it. But you get that itch. Okay, now I've got Battlecat with a naked He-Man. Now I need to find a He-Man with his harness and sword. And as I said, it was pocket money change.
I love the way you described it as an itch, because that's exactly what it is. Yeah. Sort of a niggling little thing. You just sort of scratch it. It's okay. I can ignore it. All right, it's just there. I know it's there. All right, fine. I'll buy it for $25,000. Yeah, fine.
Yeah, and even though I'm a loose collector, I am a completist. So I won't stop until I've got all three weapons for He-Man. And
now, do you need the actual weapons, or are you happy with reproductions?
I try not to go for repo. I am a dedicated, originals person through and through, but there's just some items that are unobtainable, unaffordable. So I'm comfortable to the high-end rare figures and things that I need. Those sort of repo things, I will go down that route.
What's an example of some of the?
So I have. So there's a couple of figures in the Master Universe line called known as Laser Light He-Man and. Laser light and
laser power,
laser power
light skeleton.
And they're ravers. These
pretty
glasses
much,
are really hard, and especially his tassels and his jacket, really hard to come across.
Yeah, that's it. So they were sort of only European released, very low run, right at the end of the line, and they obviously had electronics and things to complement their name and stuff like that. So I was able to get the original characters, but all their accessories are reproduction because it just I don't have a
well, they're sort of $3,000-$4,000
exactly,
items now. So.
Exactly.
Really?
So,
yeah.
Just for those little parts.
Yeah, pretty much for the whole figure.
For a working it working, you've got to deal with corrosion and everything as well for the battery areas. So
you think about a super limited release, just hitting say some European markets for a toy line that is now one of the most hotly collected toy lines of all time. So it's that combination of having something that's super hot and super limited run. And two main characters. So, it just pushes the prices right up.
Yeah.
Amazing. So, what is the most expensive piece in your collection then?
Well, I mean, I've got to say it's a play set, and it's the Eternia, Master Universe Eternia play set. I've slowly built that up over time, buying just the shell and then adding all the parts and things, which is so the wrong way to collect a play set. And you're better off just buying it all in one hit, as complete as possible, and then adding couple of things. But so that is probably, I'd estimate, $2,500 play sets.
Wow.
But as far as figures go, aside from the laser powered He-Man figures, I have a Tyranno Shredder from Ninja Turtles, who is just what he sounds like. He's a T-Rex in the form of old mate Shredder, and he cost me no change out of $900.
Wow.
And that's without any weapons.
That's just loose.
So if anyone's doing repo weapons for him, sign me up. I will be open to that. But just he was the absolute grail of grail. I'm my alias online is Shredder. I've always been a Shredder fan, and collecting all the variations of Shredder, he was the hardest one to come by. And I had to get an associate friend from the USA to help me out to buy it because they, eBay affiliation wouldn't send it to me, so had to get some help to get him.
Yeah, that's what. So I'm currently saving up for a Chrono Trigger in box.
Yeah.
And the only way I'm going to get it for a reasonable price is to try and find someone over in the States to buy it for me and send it over.
Yeah.
Because otherwise, and then if you do buy it, you don't know if they're going to send it nicely packed.
Yeah.
And if they don't, or, does it disappear? Yeah. Oh, no, I sent that, but they didn't send it. All those sorts of things. Yeah. It's a lot of money to lose.
And postage at the moment is terrible. So I felt more comfortable it being sent, a couple of states over to a friend and then him sending it over because I had utmost faith that he would package it and insure it and everything like that. So, and it got here quite safely. So, yeah.
So are there any pieces in your collection that you have from your childhood that still have a main place?
Unfortunately, we moved a few times and things, and I vividly remember Mum throwing out sort of like a towel sort of blanket thing and having sort of garage lots. People would come over to our house and buy, and it'd be like everything on this towel would be $10, everything on this towel would be $15, and that was all my childhood toys. So I saw it, and Mum would then give me the money type thing, and that was $10 back when you're 10 years old is a lot of money. So I was welcoming the money coming through, but now in retrospect it's like, oh no, there were some real grails that I got rid of. So unfortunately I have very, very little actual figures in my collection. Mum did hold on to all the Lego and things, which is a prized possession in my collection. Trent actually helped me not long ago build up a lot of the sets and things, put them together, so that was a fantastic day. But I do have like a Transformer, his name's Quake from the G1 series, and somehow managed to keep all three of his weapons. He's got two Trigger Master guns, which are little Transformers that transform into a gun, plus a third gun. So I somehow managed to keep that. But it's as I talked about it last episode, it's like things like I've got a Voltron puzzle that I kept from my childhood. I've got Voltron cassettes, audio cassettes, and the booklet, complementary booklet. I've got like a Batman cape, that's like wouldn't even fit my daughters, and they're 8 and 10. Like it would have been 5-year-old Ben cape, because it's just the knot doesn't go around your neck. It's so small. So it's just things like that I cherish now, that are very unique. Coming back to that merch side of things, and that's almost more unique than having a generic Optimus Prime that everyone has in various degrees of condition from their childhood. So I cherish them. Yeah,
completely understand.
Yep.
You're talking to a guy who has a Game Boy sewing machine.
Yeah, nice.
Trent, what about you? What's your main collection lines that you like to collect? Now, I can think of one that we've spoken about previously, and I'll bring it up if you don't, because I find that story amazing. But how did it start for you?
Yeah. Well, look, I think you have to preface this by saying I grew up in the 80s where we were told to collect them all. And it's something, you said that the itch, this sort of, walk into a store and you see something and it triggers something. Like, I feel like we're a product of, being bombarded with half an hour of TV shows.
What do you mean? No.
A commercial.
Deregulation of the advertising.
They were always going to make that Transformers cartoon and He-Man cartoon. With the toys were just happenstance. What are you talking about?
So, and in that, you watch the cartoon, you play with the toys, it was a wonderful childhood. And then, interestingly enough, you grow out of toys because there's other, there's girls and other sports and cooler things to a 15-year-old. But then this store, and we got a bit of love down the chat section or the comment section here for the viewers watching it. A lot of love for Movie Maniacs, and that was my first experience, was going into Movie Maniacs and seeing, it's so weird, but there were Dick Tracy action figures from the 1990 Warren Beatty film with Madonna and the likes of some pretty big names. Al Pacino, I think, was in that film, Dustin Hoffman. It didn't do too well, and the toys, were pretty derided, but it was something I never collected, and I remember seeing them in the stores. So I'm like, well, $10 for a carded Dick Tracy figure, something I wanted as a kid, never got it. Now's the time. I've got $40. I can buy the first 4 figures. And that started the run, and then it was just, what else didn't I get that I could add to my collection? He-Man, Ninja Turtles, all that sort of thing. And it was a golden age, as Ben said. There were a number of stores in the city, and you could go and you could spend $3, $4, $5 on a figure. Even, like I was saying, $10 carded figures. It was very affordable and pretty plentiful. So that got me into Masters, Turtles, Batman, a lot of DC, Dino Riders Mask, all the Kenner sort of stuff now, Kenner Star Wars, and the like. So it's really Centurions, Thundercats, all that sort of stuff. So what was the line you're thinking of, Ben?
We're going to head back to the Dick Tracy.
Yeah.
Can you tell that story?
Okay, well, it starts with... So it was the very first line that I collected, and there's a figure in the line which, if it's spoilers for a 1990 film...
Yeah, spoilers for a 30-year-old film, everyone. Brace yourself.
Yeah, The Blank. The Blank is a villain, a mysterious person with no face, dressed in black fedora, black trench coat. And at the end it's revealed, spoilers, it's Madonna. So the Madonna character all the way through is the Blank, right? So what that meant was Playmates did a toy revealing Anto. Playmates did a toy where you take off the mask and it's the Madonna character. And that was a spoiler for the film, so they basically canned it. They weren't allowed to release it. And after the film was released, the limited production run that they had got released through a Canadian Sears mail order catalogue. So it was a very limited run, and that figure was always extremely valuable. And it was the last character I needed to complete that line, and I just watched, I think I started collecting in 1997, and I just watched the price go up and up and up until, and the worst part of it was I found a lot on eBay, I think in the early 2000s, where the seller didn't realize they had one in there, and it was a really grainy photo, and I'm like, I go, oh, is that the Blank? And once I'd asked that question, they're like, yes, it is. And they tried to, it's the Blank, it's got the Blank in it. and no one. It was too late, so I got it for a bargain, but they never shipped it.
Oh,
and it was like, yep. And it was the time I was just waiting because it was like packages could take 2 to 3 months, and I was just like, come on. And when I realized it wasn't coming, I had no recourse on eBay. Not that it mattered. Like, I don't know what I spent, maybe like $100 back then. But that figure now goes for, around 2 to 3 grand. And a couple of years ago when I was filming Lego Masters over in Melbourne, there's a store called Lobo's. And they had one carded in a nice graded Perspex case, graded by one of the action figure authorities. And this probably goes to the most expensive toy. They were selling for $2,100. And it was just one of those pieces that I'm probably never going to see it again in person. If I want to get this, I'll have to import it. And you know what you say with shipping and import fees, you pay GST and all that. I'll just like be done with it. I'll just pick it up. I can take it home and done. So it took me, a good 20 odd years to complete that collection, but I did it. So you can do it.
The line.
Yeah.
You can do it. You just need to spend outrageous amounts of money. Now, you mentioned something in there before that many people watching or listening may not be aware of, but you were on the second season of Lego Masters here in Australia. Now, can you talk about that a little bit?
Of course.
Is your NDA lifted?
It is, yes.
Is Hamish and Andy going to come after you?
No, they're pretty cool.
Oh, good.
Well, actually nominated for the Gold Logie, Hamish. So if you're a Hamish fan, you can go onto the logie.com and vote for Hamish.
Now, for our American listeners, of which we have many.
What's a Logie?
Well, it depends.
It's like a Grammy, isn't it?
Yeah, it's like a Grammy or an Emmy. Or if you're a high school student from the 1990s, a Logie is when you cough up enough phlegm and bile in your throat and spit it at someone or something, and the snot sticks to the spit. That's a Logie.
Bit of an Earthworm Jim mate, his little snot mate.
Snot. Yeah. His name was Snot, wasn't it?
Yeah.
So Lego Masters.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's season 4 has just finished airing here in Australia. Australia pioneered the format. So, I mean, UK technically did it first, but it was a very, very different format. So, Lego Masters, if you see it in the US or across Europe, it's kind of been ported from the Australian format. A lot of fun, long builds. Like, they cut it down to, maybe half an hour of building on screen, but you can be building up to, we did one build that was 28 hours.
Jeez, non-stop?
28. No, we stopped for
I was going to
break.
say, gosh.
But they make it look like it's one continuous build with the editing, and you wear the same clothes every day. So it sort of looks like, it looks non-stop, but, you do. I think that was shot over 4 days. So intense, but amazing.
How do you build it intense? Doesn't the weather
No. Intense.
Question, just about something you've mentioned very quickly. You said you had to wear the same clothing. Did they give you facilities to wash and dry these clothes, or did you just have 4 sets of the same clothing?
No, it was the same. So down to socks, right? And particularly, I was wearing jeans most of the time, so the socks weren't noticeable. But if you're wearing shorts or a skirt or something, they were hot on. You got to be wearing the same socks. So I think I might have changed my socks, but others weren't so lucky. They had a wardrobe department, but because it was back-to-back shoots, they often didn't have enough time to wash them. So she would come in with a can of Febreze and just spray them down. I think with the 4-day shoot, they were washed between day 2 and day 3. And I remember her there trying to dry them off with a fan in the morning. So it's pretty, it's tight time frames, all this stuff. Like the television and I'd say movie production business is crazy with how hard those people work, right? Like around the clock to get this stuff happening. But it's
mad.
It's eye-opening. Same clothes.
That's crazy.
And how did you place in Lego Masters?
We made it to the finale episode, which is the top 3 teams, and we came 3rd.
Were you ever tempted to sabotage? Can you sabotage? Can you be the evil person and go, I'm just going to... Oh, no, I bumped into it.
Oh, no, there's no more red books in the brick room.
You could, I guess, but no. Look, the reality of the show was we were, after episode 1, we were all really good friends with all the other people. And it didn't ever feel like a competition. It just felt like you really wanted the best for the other teams. Like if they could build something great and beat you, then that was, good for them.
And I honestly think, from an outsider looking in, I think that's why Lego Masters Australia exceeds, other sort of reality shows, is because there's not that bickering, there's not that inbred hate on each other, and that the conniving and things like that. I just think it's a wholesome family show to watch. So yeah.
Cool. All right, last question. Are there any childhood pieces in your collection?
Yeah, I got most of my childhood action figures, but so like a lot of He-Man, a few Star Wars, and we had a lot of the like late run last 17 Star Wars figures. So that was thankfully kept all of those. But the one thing we put them into storage, and I remember getting them out when I was getting back into toy collecting. And I'm like, I'm going to go and get all my He-Man figures. And I had Scareglow. I had the green staff version of Scareglow. And I'm like, I've got him there. Went to the box, and all of the Vintage Masters figures were there, but I could only find Scareglow's right arm. That was all that was left of him. And for those of you who know your Masters, I mean, Scareglow probably goes for about $800 just loose now.
Yep.
Whoa!
So...
highly sought after.
Just so devastated that the one, and I knew he was one of the sought after figures, and I don't know what happened to him, like where he went, but his right arm was just taunting me there. But managed to keep most of it. So funnily enough, I didn't even know Star Wars characters came with accessories, right? Until being an adult collector, because they would have got lost that quickly, just vacuumed up. Yep. There goes, like, he comes with a little transponder or something that's 1 millimeter big, and it just got sucked up.
Yep.
So all that stuff was gone, but all the bulk of the figures were still there. But we did have some garage sales, and I did keep a lot of toys that I wanted to keep. But like, I remember just selling my Monster in My Pockets, like 5 for 20 cents, and just the regret was almost instant. On that.
No, cool. So, do you ever have the Mountain?
Never had the Mountain.
Do you know how much that goes for nowadays?
Yeah, and it's really brittle.
Very brittle. For
so.
a piece of 30-year-old soft plastic.
Yeah.
Ridiculous. A good friend of the show, King Kaiju, has his pinned up on a wall.
Yes.
Just pins through it. You
Monster.
Crazy, awful person.
Yeah.
Don't buy from King Kaiju. Just awful. Now, Hack the Dino is a video game show primarily, and Toy Power podcast is about toy power and cakes. You bake a lot of cakes, which I think is a real weird fit, but there you go. So I searched far and wide to find a company that dabbled in both toys and video games, and lo and behold, last show, my co-host Floppy, after he'd saved those burning orphans, made a list about Nintendo Entertainment System games, without realizing that all his bad picks were all made by a company called LJN. So I thought, this episode, now I've got you two here, we're going to talk about LJN, what else they made, both the good, the bad, and what they are actually known for. So I'll give a little bit of a preamble here, because I know both of you know a lot more than I do, and this is only very thinly veiled research. So LJN Toys Limited was founded in 1970 by Jack Friedman, who later founded other toy companies, notably THQ and Jack Specific, both of which are still around today.
Yeah,
Jack Specific is one of the bigger ones. I'm not sure of the other one. But
THQ kept making video games, and they went out of business, and then they were bought out by who's that no-name company who bought a whole bunch of studios off Square Enix that I asked you last show, Anto? Yeah, them. Redeemer or something like that.
They're known as THQ Nordic now, and I think they might be under the Microsoft umbrella.
No, so they got bought out by the company that owns Dark Horse and all those other companies now.
That's right.
Yeah.
Redeemer? Is it Redeemer?
Maybe?
Something like that. Anyway, the name LJN came from reversing the initials of Norman J. Lewis, whose toy company, Norman J. Lewis Associates, had employed Freeman as a sales representative in the 1960s. Lewis himself initially backed LJN financially, but later sold his interest to Chinese investors.
Now, just on that, do you think NJL rolls off the tongue as well?
Doesn't
Do you
sound
think
as
it's a
good.
very, very wise decision, I think. Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, LJN, I think you're exactly right. They went for it just because it rolls off the tongue nicely.
Yeah.
LJN was first and foremost a toy company, and back in the wild and crazy 80s, it thought it would be a great idea to produce a line of realistic water guns. Every gun in the Entertech, sorry, I can't read. Series was all black with no neon safety tip and based on actual weapons like the Colt 911, the TEC-9 and the M16. This led to accidental deaths, robberies, lawsuits and bans. LJN reworked the line to be far less realistic, but by then the damage was done.
Oh, you can't, yeah.
America, y'all.
I think that's why we have orange tips
That
on
is
our
the
guns
reason.
now.
I think 3 people were killed holding... Now, they may have been performing a bank robbery, I'm not sure, but 3 people were shot dead by law enforcement with these Entertech weapons. So,
Wow.
Water pistols.
yeah, with water
Ridiculous.
pistols.
Now, what else did LJN make that we are aware of?
I think you have to say, if you say LJN, it's synonymous with wrestling figures.
Yep.
Now wrestling figures, if you go back sort of to the 80s, there are a couple of different lines. You remember probably the big plastic hunks, right?
Yep.
And then you had the smaller ones that were done by Hasbro.
And you had the thumb wrestlers as well.
Yeah,
from
the ones
LJN.
you could... Yep.
Yep.
They were also, I think, LJN.
I think
Yep.
the Hasbro
Or
ones
Hasbro.
came sort of late 80s, early 90s, I think.
But
Yeah.
LJN
Yep.
were known for those.
Yep.
If you see those big rubber ones
Yep.
that had no articulation, and you could sort of, they were kind of bendable without having the wire frames in them. They weren't posable, but they were. You could sort of do punching and kicking and body slams and all that sort of thing. And they did a ring and a cage that you could
Yep.
fight. So that's probably what they're best known for. But what launched them was the ET license. So they got the license to do ET toys. They didn't famously do the
light
ET
up finger. Yeah.
That's
yeah,
right. That's awful.
It's one of the most awful toys you can possibly imagine. That's not LJN, but they had a license to do ET. They also did a Brooke Shields doll early on. But what I guess I know them for, what I collect mostly LJN for, is their Thundercats line, which we've got, Snarf up here at the front. So that was really in response to what Mattel was doing with Masters of the Universe. So there was a Thundercats cartoon, and LJN got in with the toys. They also did another line called, was it Tiger Sharks? You've got one of them,
I
Ben?
got the Tiger Shark here. This is old mate T-Ray, the evil villain. And the cool thing is he's got a really cool action feature. The original toy came with a whip, so that whip would swing around and things. And there was also like a scuba diving helmet that would sit on top. And the cool thing with the Thundercats and Tiger Sharks, they was sort of part of a trio. So you've got Tiger Sharks on the land. Sorry, you got Thundercats on the land, Tiger Sharks in the sea, and then up in the air is famously Silverhawks, right? However, Silverhawks toys were released in the 80s in the corresponding cartoon, but they were bought out and released by Kenner. So that was a completely different scale at the sort of 3 3/4, sort of more esque to their Star Wars and G.I. Joe scale. And it totally threw out the trilogy of these characters. And there's been little hints and teases in each of the cartoons to symbolize the trio of the uniformed Earth, Sea, and air. And but that's really cool. But unfortunately, Tiger Sharks, Thundercats did really well. They had a couple of seasons of the cartoon, and they had quite a long-running toy line. But Tiger Sharks came in at the end and had a one-season cartoon and a very, very minimal and small production run toy line, which didn't even get any vehicles or anything. Yeah. So,
and that feature you've got there, the push button, was they coined, I think, Battle-matic, the Battle-matic action feature. And with certain figures, you could press a little device into their back and it would cause the eyes to light up on Lino and Mumra and that sort of thing. So they're fairly innovative. You can see they sort of used electronics, and it will tie into sort of video games later on. But they weren't just a one-trick pony. They had the big
action features, and things,
the big wrestling figures, but they also had the action features to compete with Masters. They had an advanced Dungeons and Dragons toy line, which I think has a character called War Duke, who's very sought after, and wizards and that sort of thing. And they went into things that were sort of a bit G.I. Joe-esque with Bionic 6, but they were made of die-cast
metal.
So they're just thrashed. Like, you imagine all the paint's chipped off and that sort of thing.
Yeah. Definitely a toy
figures?
line that you need to buy carded because
you need that one carded.
Buying loose is just it's like buying a little old Matchbox or Hot Wheels toy. They're just destroyed, all the paints.
The David Lynch Dune movie got an action figure tie-in. You could buy the sandworm, and it's just like a big flex tube.
You've just acquired
I've
those,
just acquired,
haven't you?
the 6 main characters. From that, again, action features, but really, like, they were picking some pretty obscure lines, and in my mind, they were playing sort of second fiddle to the likes of Hasbro, Mattel, and they were probably maybe trying to compete based on seeing something that had come out and trying to put something into market that was similar, rather than necessarily being groundbreaking, like we saw the likes things like Sectors and Visionaries and these toy lines that really, to compete, tried something brand new. I think LJN was playing it safe and trying to compete based on putting out similar product. But what I would say, Ben, we talked about my collection in your last episode being predominantly mint on card. I can tell you I have no mint on card LJN figures.
Oh, wow.
Because they are that hard to find.
No
that
Thundercats?
Nothing.
Okay.
No. I just have never been able to afford them.
Wow.
It's just, you're looking at Lino, $1,000 plus.
Wow, really?
Yep, easily, and even just some of the basic characters are like 300 sort of almost minimum for like a card of Thundercats. So all my LJN figures are loose, and I'm happy with that.
Are you though?
Well, no.
I knew it.
But what's really interesting about that is it tells you something about the value of LJN toys, and that value is derived from the lower production runs that they had.
Yeah, a lot of people wouldn't even know or have seen Tiger Shark toys in their lifetime.
I did not.
Yeah,
you brought him in tonight and said, "Oh, who's this?" And I went, "Don't know." And you went, "Well, what are we talking about?" Like, it was very nice. You were leading me through it, even though I had absolutely no idea, and you were very polite about it, which is more than I deserve.
Oh, good.
So, did you know? Speaking of very, very small quantities, LJN also made a video game console.
No.
It's called the LJN Video Game Art. Anto, I believe we have a picture and a video to go for the LJN art. Perhaps go for the picture first.
Let me find it because I don't know.
On the run sheet, highlighted.
Whole run sheet highlighted. There we go. Bam.
There it is. You can see on the screen here. It's a basic console-looking thing, but
got a lollipop for a joystick.
A lollipop for a joystick. So the LJN Video Art is an educational home video game console that was developed and manufactured by LJN. It was introduced sometime in 1987, remaining on the market until at least 1989, at a heavy price drop. It's LJN's only video game console, and only 9 games were made for it.
Wow.
Now, if we go to the video that's just underneath that, Anto, this console was basically MS Paint. It had no brush or tool options, and you had to use the joystick to draw everything.
That would be infuriating.
That joystick does not look like it would last very long.
Do you know what's even more infuriating? There was no way to save any of your drawings or work. So they tried to justify this by saying it wasn't actually meant to compete against the NES or the Master System, which were extremely popular at the time. Rather, it was supposed to be an alternative to television. So instead of watching a TV, you pop in a game and do some drawing. Very little information about it survives, and not even the retail price or the sales statistics are known. Now, the 9 games that came with this, and I say games, they're basically what we see on the screen here, outlines that you colour in, and there's no fill tool, by the way. It's you have to colour it in.
You have to
by
move that joystick.
Oh my goodness!
To colour it in.
It's horrendous.
Stay inside the lines. Yeah.
So the 9 games that came out with it, extremely, extremely rare to find nowadays.
God. And he's done what anyone does in paint. Like, you just start scribbling.
Yeah.
Because you've got no control. There's no finesse. Like, I love it. It's got a sliding dial to select the colour. And then you just end up... You've got no control, so it just ends up looking horrendous anyway. Like,
And
look at it.
You can't save it, so it doesn't matter. It never happened. Never happened. You can just waste your time pointlessly.
It was really interesting as well. Like I've had the, I wouldn't call it pleasure, but I've had the opportunity to touch one of these joysticks. It has no resistance whatsoever.
Yep.
So like you move it and it moves, but there's no give. And it's just a really strange feeling because you can see in this video, like it stays where you leave it, but it doesn't have resistance when it moves, so it shouldn't.
Yeah, right.
It's just a
Okay.
weird thing. Really weird.
So in 1990, Acclaim took over LJN and decided to close the toy arm and invest in games, as they were a hot commodity back then. Unfortunately, most of their games were mostly money-grabbing licensed games that weren't very good. So I have got a list here of some bad games that were made by LJN and also some not as bad to okay games, because let's face it, none of them were brilliant. So first up, we have got for the NES Tag Team Wrestling. Anto, I believe we've got a video up there. This was fundamentally unplayable in nearly every way you can imagine. If you overcame the horrible graphics and controls, you still have to deal with the times when the opponent AI difficulty is raised to such a degree that it becomes quite literally impossible to win. The only saving grace from this game's existence is that this game eventually inspired Homestar Runner's Strong Bad character. Are we all familiar with Homestar Runner?
Are you kidding? That inspired Strong Bad?
Yeah, this game inspired Strong Bad. There's a character...
Strong Bad. How do you type with boxing gloves?
Yeah, there is one of the masked luchadors in this game has Strong Bad's mask.
Oh, that's so cool.
So, horrible game. Like, the button combinations you had to use in order to do moves. Like, you'd lock up and it'd be a combination come up on the screen. You had to press A, B, 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 A in order to hit the move, or hold left and hold these two buttons.
Wow.
And then you'd have to change it if the AI sort of did it as well. Yeah, it's ridiculous. Next up, we have Bad Street Brawler. This was designed to be used with the Power Glove. We all know the Power Glove, right? That controller that fit on your hand, and like the commercials made us believe that if you threw a punch, it'd throw a punch, but it wasn't that at all.
It was literally just the controller.
It was a controller on your wrist. I've got one up there in the box.
Whoa, that's some artwork.
Yeah, it's some great artwork. Yeah, you can guess how easy it was to control this game because you were going like this.
Yep.
Awful game. Again, quick cash grab.
Amazing you can kick with the Power Glove, you know?
That's why you have to put it on your ankle.
Yep.
Look at those shades of green. You punch a dog, punch a bowl man, punch another dog.
Oh, wow.
And they're enemies. I don't know what the point is. I don't know why. Why is he punching so many dogs?
There's like a
the
strong
guys
man
are throwing
with
the dogs. Yeah, sorry.
It's like well, what is that? He's wearing a leotard and he's got one of those, moustaches.
And they turn into a bee?
That's bizarre.
Is that what's
Or
happening?
a butterfly? I'm not sure, man.
Maybe it's his soul leaving his body. Next up, we had another movie tie-in, Back to the Future 2 and 3, which was the same game for the NES. This was a top-down infinite runner with... no, that was Back to the Future 1. So Back to the Future 1, was a top-down infinite runner with the same two songs, which was sped up, which we covered last show. However, Back to the Future 2 and 3 was a side-scroller that enabled you, once you had gathered enough fuel...
That's relevant to have a tortoise shell in there.
To travel to 1985, 1955, and 2015. Now, it did admittedly have some really cool techniques. You can see here on the screen, do you see the other Marty character?
Yeah.
So when you travelled back in time to a level you'd already been in, your previous self would be there.
And
if you bumped into them, it was instant death.
Okay.
Because you
that's clever.
That is clever.
Yeah, pay them that.
But it was overall a super confusing game.
Why is there a duck? Like a human-sized duck is on the screen.
You have to collect pizza in order to... Because you know how Marty McFly loves pizza.
Is he in his pajamas?
I don't know what he's in. You had to collect little clocks to travel.
Yeah, I mean,
get enough time to travel through time.
Give him that, but walking ducks, it's like a Psyduck.
I especially like that. You familiar with the Mario Brothers villain Spinies? If we go back to the start of the video, there's actually Spiny rip-offs in there.
Like
the little shell.
Yeah, the
like
spike
the
shells.
blue shell from
that's what it looks just
Mario
like.
Kart.
I mean, it's like it's Mario with Donkey Kong mixed in. It's
Yep, exactly what it is. And the original Mario Brothers to boot. And then last, but there he is, the little Spiny.
Yep,
And you can jump on them even though they have spikes, but oh well.
Is that a hamburger with feet?
Yes, so hamburgers were in this game as well. Don't touch the hamburgers. As we can remember from that classic scene in Back to the Future 2, where the hamburgers try to eat you.
Yep.
We all remember that scene.
I prefer to forget it, but yeah.
Lastly, we had X-Men, which we did cover last show, but it's so bad, it's so good, I wanted to go through it again. This was a top-down action game where hit detection is basically non-existent. The music constantly assaults your ears. Half of the characters are essentially useless. The graphics are so bad that you quite literally can't tell where you are or what you're supposed to be doing. And the AI is useless to the point that I'm pretty sure the in-game characters have become aware of the game they're forced to exist in and are doing everything in their power to get out. So you had melee characters like Colossus or Wolverine who you had to be up really, really close. Then you have Cyclops who you could just cheese it and shoot everyone. And everyone just chose Cyclops and just shot. And that was it. It was just this infinite runner, awful mess. Right. You fought against tanks and other people and things that X-Men have nothing to do with as well. However, it was 2-player co-op, so that's pretty cool. That was a bit of a rarity for that time.
Yep.
In the end, though, awful game. Based on a license. Not going to lie, I still want to play it. So the not-so-bad games. LJN did bring out a few that were okay. Like, I've got a couple of them in the collection. We can see some here, which we'll get to very, very shortly. But Bill and Ted's excellent Game Boy Adventure was a simple Donkey Kong clone that is way better than the NES version of the same name. You're getting limitations with the Game Boy, but I think if you were playing a Game Boy game back then, you were well aware of those limitations and you were a little bit more forgiving. This game was actually pretty fun, despite the graphics being, big head mode without it meaning to be big head mode. It was a fun little platform puzzler, and you went through the various time periods that Bill and Ted went through as well. Next up, Alien 3 for the Super Nintendo, which you've got there, Ben.
Just here, brought that along tonight. So
how much of that game have you played?
Nah, not much. See, this is me in a nutshell. Buy games just because I like the movie or franchise and play it once.
Here you go. Experience it now in real time without having to play it.
So it plays very much like Metroid with the ability to explore Fury 161 at your own pace. The visuals are stylish. The gunplay is solid. It doesn't follow the movie plot that closely, but that could be a good thing because Alien 3 is easily a worse movie than
100%.
Aliens.
Yep.
Well, it's hard to beat Aliens, isn't it?
Aliens is the best. Yeah.
I actually prefer...
That's not bad.
It's not that bad. It's not... And I think that's what the main theme is going to be for these games. Like, it's not that bad. Yeah. Like, we've just seen some real tosh, but, this, not so bad. You play Ripley, you get guns, you get to fire them at aliens, you go up against the Queen at the end. It's a great time. Not the Queen, the daughter, Ripley's kid. I don't know.
No.
I forget how it works.
No.
Next up, we have Crash Test Dummies for the Super Nintendo.
Yep. And just on that, so Aliens was toys were produced by Kenner, and Crash Test, the Incredible Crash Test Dummies were done by Tyco. So interesting that LJN had the license to do the games,
especially Tyco, who did what's that story? What's that toy line called? I can't remember. Oh, that's right, Dino Riders.
Yep.
So Crash Test Dummies was a simple platformer that could have inspired Super Meat Boy with its endless supply of booby traps. It's actually amusing to watch your character lose pieces as they take hits until it's just a bouncing torso. So yeah, you basically infinite run through trying to get through the level. Every time you get hit, you lose a piece of you. Man, these toys were really popular.
And this is another thing that I had as a kid. My brother and I collected these. Once I got frustrated as a kid that I couldn't find any Ninja Turtles that weren't variants of the four brothers, I started looking at other toy lines and things. And Crash Test, the Incredible Crash Test Dummies were one of those toy lines that we both gravitated to. We saved our money up and bought a lot of the Incredible Crash Test Dummies figures, and Mum kept almost all of them. And because my brother's a mechanic and he loves the cars and the vehicles from this line, I let him have the whole collection. And I've helped him over the years build on that childhood collection, and he's got quite a impressive collection
That's
now.
fantastic.
So.
He's lost his leg and he's just hopping along.
That's great. Considering the animation that would have had to have gone into coding this, it's really quite... And they're big, beautiful sprites. That's one thing these LGN games did really well. The sprites were big and detailed, and it made them a lot more enjoyable than sort of like the X-Men game we saw before.
And this suit is based on the later run Crash Test, Incredible Crash Test Dummy figures.
What were the original runs?
The original
They're all
were all one colour, sort of generic
So like a
grey
white
or
purple, or grey,
purple.
I
Or,
have memory of fluoro ones.
so that's
they
the
were
later
later
run.
waves.
That's
Right.
Yeah.
Just to make them a bit more appealing to the
Yeah.
consumer.
Yeah, variants.
And that's when the Junkacons, or whatever they're called, junk bots, came into play to give the Crash Test Dummies an enemy to fight and to get back their parts and limbs and build cars and whatever.
Wasn't there a fair bit of backlash to these guys?
It used to be
Yeah.
called Ted and Lax. What's it? Help me out here, Trent.
Larry and
Ted and Larry or something.
It was based on a Canadian public service set
like
of
a road
commercials.
safety.
Raid safety.
Yeah, and then they wanted to cut and saying you're not,
Don't be
advertising.
a dummy, buckle up.
Yeah, you're not advertising this properly. You're making it fun for kids to want to crash into walls and things. So they completely separated from the actual
Vince and Larry.
that's
And that's
the
why
one.
if you actually they and one of them's grey and one of them's blue
White.
or white,
Yeah.
whatever.
Yeah.
Vince and Larry.
Yep.
And then later on, when they're not allowed to use those names anymore, they change them to something else. So the Vince and Larry from that line,
Spin and something.
yeah, they're the ones that are more collectible because they were discontinued essentially.
But you've got characters in the toy line like a dog that would be flat roadkill, a cat. The most controversial one was a baby in the car seat that would spring out of the car seat. I never forget, I took the car to school to show it for show and tell, and everyone's just like, oh, cool, it's a car, it's a toy car, cool. But then when I threw it against the wall and all the tyres and the windscreen and the characters flew out of the windscreen and, and their bodies and limbs are flying off everywhere, all of a sudden it was an amazing toy and very underrated, so...
See, I don't have children, so
Yeah.
the idea of a kid's toy that throws children out of it is hilarious.
Yeah.
And lastly, what I personally think is the best game out of the list, Spider-Man and Venom Maximum Carnage for the Super Nintendo, based off the comic book storyline, which it followed pretty closely. Well, the cutscenes in between did, not so much the fighting the same person.
Right.
It is just a side-scrolling beat-em-up. Like Double Dragon and all those sorts of games. It's a sought-after game today. Ben tells his story of how he got his copy. Okay, so I have a little story about how I got my copy of this. I was going to fish it out, but it's deep down in the recesses of my collection. So I didn't. But my copy, it came from a kid at school called Jamie, I think his name was, and he wanted to sell some of his Super Nintendo games, so he lent me Maximum Carnage and said, oh, we'll play it for a week and let me know if you want it. And I said, oh yeah, okay, no worries. And then a week came by and I just thought, I wonder if he'll ask for it. And he didn't. I'll just keep quiet then. And then another week by and he didn't ask for it again. Oh, okay, I'll just keep quiet. And then when he... Anyway, it's been 30 odd years and I've still got your game, Jamie. You're not getting it back, you jerk. It was really, really fun. I really, really did enjoy it. And a band called Green Jelly did the intro for it, who they also did the Three Little Piggies song, I believe, from the 90s. Do you remember that?
Yeah, like
Little Pig,
the grunge one. Yeah.
I thought you were talking about the kids' nursery rhyme about the pigs and the wolf.
No. This was much better. They did throatiness and then went, "Lot by the head on my chinny chin chin."
Do you fight any actual villains? Are
Yes.
they saving up? Yeah, they are.
Yeah.
Yep.
So you fight Carnage in it.
They're all bosses.
Yeah, you got Shriek in there as well. You got Doppelganger who's in there. Again, very faithful to the storyline, the comic book storyline. But being like Super Nintendo, you just got cutscenes in between and a cutscene at the end.
And Super Deep Cut's Cloak and Dagger, like you hardly
Oh,
ever
yeah.
hear them. That was
Captain
crazy.
America's in it, and
Yeah, nice. Yeah.
back in the 90s, Captain America, again, was a
Yeah.
loser that no one really
Yeah.
cared about. But yeah, really fun game, really sought after nowadays.
If anything, just watching all that, the evolution of the animation through the gameplays looked fantastic. Like we saw Alien 3, sort of was very dark and movie-esque, and then Incredible Crash Test Dummies sort of next level up, and this one is by far the best.
It looks great,
It
it
looks
moves nicely, colours are nice.
Yeah, to say this was early 90s, I'd be like, really? Yeah, well done.
Now, the LJN stopped making stuff shortly after this time, shortly after the 90s. I think recently the name and logo was resurrected for a limited run of a toy. I remember reading, but I forgot to write it down. But it was very, very recently, but it was sort of like a retro thing, so they brought it back for that and then just didn't anymore. So LJN is no longer in existence in any way, shape or form, unless you want to buy the rights to it. But do you know what is in existence and in a shape of form?
On your face?
Quiz on your face!
Oh, here we go.
A little game we like to do here at Hack the Dino where I have 4 questions, multiple choice questions, and I ask a question with 4 possible answers. If you think you know the answer, you yell out your name, that's your buzzer. I will come to you and you can take a guess at what that answer is. If you get it wrong, that's it, you've had your turn and the others can have a listen. This is the first time we've had a 3-way quiz on your face. Usually it's just Anto and Floppy quizzing. But now we've got Ben, Trent and Anto all quizzing together. All we need is a cup and everyone's having a good time.
Wow, don't Google that. All right.
Quiz in a cup, that's our new game. All right, so going through the scores, we have Brayden is on 2, Jazz is on 2, Anto is on 12, Floppy's on 14. So anyone who ever comes on here, they're on the scoreboard forever.
Yep. Nice.
So both of you are on the scoreboard now. Congratulations.
Hooray.
However, you don't have any points yet. So I'm going to have to ask Ben not to look at my computer screen where I've got the answers.
Sure. No, I won't.
And away we go shortly because I didn't check this sooner, so I just have to get to the right spot.
Are we still taking 2 questions from some of our Patreons?
We have a question from Michael Towns, and Dylan the Villain was not able to be here this week, so I chose for him.
Cool.
All right, so first question. How many Masters of the Universe video games are there?
Ben.
Oh, Ben.
I'm going to go 2. 3. 3.
Trent,
It's multiple choice, guys.
Oh, shit.
You got options.
Hold on. Right, go on.
keep rolling off.
Well, Ben's out now.
Okay. So it wasn't right?
It's more than that. No, it's
4,
not right.
B5, C6, or D7?
Trent, I'm going to go 4.
4 is correct.
Oh, what's
So-
the 4th one?
So there's 4 games.
Yep.
There's 7 games in total. 4 of them are Masters of the Universe, and the others are He-Man.
Okay. Well, they did a few recently, like Tappers of Grayskull, and, those ones.
All those mobile games.
But there was a PlayStation 2 one.
Yes,
There was
yes.
then the Game Boy Advance one.
Yes,
There
the 2.
was
And then-
an OG
Yep,
one.
that's
and
the 3 that I thought.
Yeah, and I knew there was one more, and I couldn't
Okay.
think of.
Okay. They're the 3 I thought.
Because
So
these questions are so heavily based around toy lines, I'm going to be at somewhat of a disadvantage this week.
Yes. Okay, question number 2. The Lego set Super Mario 64 ? Block contains how many pieces? A, 3064, B, 2064, C, 1064, or D, Nintendo 64! Anto?
3064.
Incorrect.
Damn it.
Trent,
Trent?
2000 and whatever it was. 64?
Correct. Yes, 2064. Trent's on 2. That was from wonderful Michael Towns from Game Boy Games, beloved Patreon. Wow, you're cleaning up. Cleaning up, Anto. This was your chance to get ahead of Floppy.
Look, bring back the music quiz and I'll floor all of you.
No, it's not happening. In Japan, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 2 on the NES is called A, Teenage Mutant Hero Turtles, B, Super Ninja Turtle, C, Heroes of the World Fighter, or D, New Style Ninja Tortoise.
Anto.
Anto?
A.
Incorrect. That was where you come from, though,
Trent?
Hero
It was
Turtles.
where I come from. That's why I was like, surely it wouldn't be that, but it must be because it's so dumb.
Trent,
I'm going with D. The
new style,
new style.
Ninja Tortoise. Incorrect.
Ben,
Okay, Ben, you got it.
B.
B. Super Ninja Turtle is correct. So all those names were bootleg names.
Well,
I was looking up
yeah,
bootleg.
legitimate.
Hero
Yeah.
Turtles was European, though.
They couldn't use the word
Yeah,
ninja in
yeah.
the UK release of Ninja Turtles,
Yeah.
so they couldn't show Michelangelo's nunchucks.
Yeah.
They had to
Which is
cut all that
weird
out.
considering you've got Sai and two swords.
Yeah, it's
Yeah, I
it's
remember
bizarre.
watching it as a kid back in the UK and noticing those differences, and I was like, hang on a minute, this isn't what I remember.
Yeah. Teenage Mutant Hero Turtle.
Going to do a little bit thing because this has a video at the end that I'll send over to Anto shortly. But, final question. What was the NES Monster in My Pocket game called in Asia? Was it A, Batman and Flash? B, Mummy and Dr. Jekyll? C, Sniper Wolf and Psycho Mantis? Or D, Trent and Ben?
Trent, I'm going with B. The
B,
Mummy and
Mummy and
Jekyll.
Dr. Jekyll? Incorrect.
Anto.
Anto?
A.
Batman and Flash?
Yes.
Correct.
Oh, how random.
So I will send this over to assets to you, Anto, and you
Alrighty.
can bring this video up. So in Asia, for whatever reason, they had the game. Everything remained the same, and then all of a sudden they decided, no, you know what? It's going to be a Batman and Flash. So bring it up for us. Here it is. Have you played the Monster in My Pocket game before?
No, I knew there was one, but
It's a side scroller.
yes.
It's pretty bad, and it starts off exactly like this. So the monster's jumping out of the pocket. Go to about 15 seconds, Anto. And that's right, I have the time codes.
That's pretty cool. I like that.
They're all the figures that you get
Yeah.
at the toys.
Yep.
And that's just Batman, Flash. It's even got the Monster in My Pocket
Wow.
logo. It was just a ROM hack, and they
Yeah,
released that
okay.
in Asia. I couldn't find a box for it, though. Player 1, Batman. It was a 2-player co-op as well. So it's just Batman and Flash sitting down watching TV, and they get sucked into the TV and go ahead and defeat Guile for some
I was
reason.
going to say, they get accosted by Guile from Street Fighter 2.
Well, at the end of that quiz maniac time, we've got Ben on 1, Trent on 2, Braden on 2, Jazz on 2, Anto on... Did you get one right, Anto?
13
Yes.
now.
Yes, you did. You're on 13.
Hey.
And Floppy's still on 14.
Floppy's
If
still in the
only
lead.
Floppy was here, I would be more than happy to congratulate him and wish him well, especially because he was such a good person in rescuing those... What my... Have you been under there that whole time? Where the hell did you come from? For the podcast listeners, Floppy appears to have been sleeping under the table the whole time. What the hell? I like the way Anto didn't see Floppy come in there.
No
Sorry,
idea.
I had a big night. I fell asleep.
I heard someone rustling around, but I wasn't sure if it was just Jazz in the kitchen.
My goal was to come in behind Anto and just go over.
But we have been Hack the Dino. This has been our gaming cast. We do many, many things, but this isn't all we do. Ben and Trent, what else do you do? It's time to plug everything you want.
Well, that's pretty much it. Toy Power.
Yep.
Toy Power? You got an Instagram for Toy Power or a place where you show off your toys?
Toy Power Podcast on Facebook, Instagram, on I think we're on Twitter as well. Thanks, Frank. We're on all those social media outlets. You can find me at Shredder1982 on Instagram and Future Toys 32 for Trent on Instagram. So that's us in a nutshell. We're a weekly podcast. Come find us and enjoy some toy antics.
Toy antics. Trent?
That's pretty much it. Yeah, I don't do the socials, so they roll them off. But no, it's
You're a
good.
wise
There's some great toy. I just use Instagram, just looking at toy collections all day. But yeah, it's fantastic. So get some 80s and 90s toy goodness into your lives.
Anto, what do you have in your life?
Not as much toy goodness as you guys, but I do social media stuff for Hack the Dino, which Ben has been graciously taking over the last week or two while I've been stressing and fixing the computer that we've successfully used this evening.
Woohoo!
Well done.
Oh my god. Outside of that, I've been streaming a lot more regularly on our channel. So I'm planning on doing it generally sort of weekdays, Wednesday to Friday-ish on the off week. I've got my personal Instagram, which is just at HeyIt'sAnto. It's private, so you have to follow me to actually look at it. I just put video game stuff up there every now and again. And yeah, other than that, not a whole lot personally.
Well, I also do a little thing on Instagram. Usually you can find all my stuff at Mr. Benjamin, which is basically an insurance record of all my video game things. But for fun, I quite often do a little thing called Bad Game Arts with an S, where I find
yes, that Akuma. It's that I got that box when I bought Street Fighter 2 Turbo, and I got it from John Martin's, and it's atrocious.
It's awful.
The box art is the. I've still got it. If you want it,
hell
you can
yes.
have it. Add to your collection. So there you go.
It's
so bad.
Oh, and like the best part is you look at Cammy and like they've put her in such a way her spine would have snapped in half.
Yep.
It's awful. But all the bad game art from video games history. So we can see there, lately we've been looking at Kickmaster, where you have to break your ankle in order to be a good Kickmaster. We've got Smart Ball there, and he's not a ball.
It's more of a
It's a
frisbee.
discus.
Yeah.
You're going against the basic concept here.
Easy.
Next across, we've got, what have we got there, Anto? Oh, yes, Wolfenstein 3D. When you're sneaking around a Nazi-filled castle trying to escape, be sure to waste your bullets by firing in the air and letting the Nazis know your position.
But take your shirt off first.
Also take your shirt off
Yeah.
and be really ripped in those Nazi death camps. That's very important.
Yeah.
What else we got there, Anto, that we might be able to get a rise of? Ah, yes, Up and Down. This is the car that should be a plane because it's high as hell. And can we just scroll down to one of my favourite ones? Actually, Anto.
I like the aliens one.
I think you won't like the name.
Xenomorph.
No, that's called Xenophobe.
Yeah.
It's a game about aliens.
Yeah.
It's called Xenophobe. Oh. Wow. If we can get out of there, Anto, and just go up, because we didn't get to see this last week, go to that phallic one. So now that we've zoomed in a bit, I don't know what all the phallic pieces are, but look at the face of the tornado.
Yeah.
What is going on there?
This
He's
was what
seen some
PC
things.
gamers got in the 90s.
Yeah. There's some chomberries there for you as well to regenerate some shield.
Yeah, Fortnite reference. Yes, we found another one, Anto.
Yes!
We're not alone anymore.
Joint Toy Power Podcast, Hack the Dino Fortnite stream.
Yeah, I think
let's
it's
do it.
coming.
Let's do it. But we have been Hack the Dino. I'd like to thank Ben and Trent from the Toy Power Podcast. Be sure to subscribe to them and us on iTunes and Stitcher and Mitcher and not that other word I said previously. And like, subscribe, thumbs up, all that stuff. But until next time, you should really get a doctor to look at that. It's growing. It's not nice. Don't be silly.